everybody, it's the preacher and Champ. He's working on us here. And today we're going to pot up some herbs. I like to grow herbs in pots instead of taking up space in the garden. A lot of times herbs remain small, and sometimes it's easier just to take care of them in pots. So step number one is find yourself a good pot or a couple of good pots and find them on sale. I happen to like this little whiskey barrel look. It's ceramic of some kind, but it looks like a whiskey barrel, and these were normally $20-something, and they had them on clearance for $9.96, and so that's preacher price right there. First thing you want to do is take the plug out, unless you're going to plant these inside and really regulate the water. I'm not. I'm going to set them out by the garden or on the porch or in the flower bed. So I take that, take the bottom plug out, and then a lot of people right here would just add dirt, and that's fine, but I'm going to be using potting mix and some compost. And so what tends to happen is that tends to get down and clog up that hole. Some people put a pot shard over it. I don't have pot shards, but what I do have are a nut container. Yeah, all the nuts are loose. Anyways, what I did was cut it in half, and then I took a knife and I just stabbed it on every side. I poked a hole and twisted it. This way water can get in it. Now what I'm going to do is set it directly over that hole. And what that will do is allow the water that's in there to go around the hole and then into the hole. And then to ensure that I don't lose all my good dirt, I took a piece of landscape fabric and I'm just going to tuck it down in there around, just like that. See that? I hope you can see that. I know black on black is pretty black, but now what I'm going to do is take and pack some dirt around that, so I hold that partial container right over the hole, and that will keep water from settling in there or just getting too wet, causing the bottom of your roots to rot. So I've done that. Let me get some dirt put in here. Okay, this is just some kind of growing medium, pot and soil. All I'm doing with this is holding the fabric in place. So I'm just tucking the fabric down and then the dirt staying there in place. And I'm just tapping that around. Let me get another one of those. This is really dry. You could wet it up with water first. I'm going to get it in place first, and then I'm going to pour water on it. Okay, I'm pushing. I have my cup in the center, my half container in the center, and I'm draped over and back up the sides with the fabric, and I'm just smashing with my fist all in between the pot and this, packing that dirt in. Now I've got it pretty well packed in there. It's not going anywhere. You can see right here, there's my lid. All right, that's just to hold that in place. The roots of these plants are not going to be anywhere near that anytime soon, so that's just holding it in place. Now that I've got it there, I'm going to do two pots. This is dirt, rotten hay, some leaves, and a lot of rabbit pellets. This is everything that was under a rabbit cage at my Uncle Wayne's house. You might have saw me and Fitz Preacher get some rabbit pellets there back in the spring. I'm going to put a layer of that in there. I'm saving half for the other pot. I'm going to put a layer of that in there just like that. A little bit more. Now, from here on up, I'm going to be adding the growing potting soil, growing medium, and I'm going to be incorporating this in there. I don't want all this on the bottom because that's where the water's going to go out and I'm going to lose all my nutrients. So I would rather keep, especially early on, I would rather keep the nutrients to the top, and as I water, it washes down into the lower parts. You're going to lose some anyways, but this just ensures it's there for the roots if they need it. Okay, now I want to start grabbing some of that composted rabbit pellets and bringing it up through the soil so that when I put these roots in there, as they're going through this growing medium, which really doesn't have a lot to it, it's mainly peat moss and vermiculite, they're getting into some of those rabbit pellets, some of that composted hay and sawdust. So I'm seeing it in there now. Okay, now what I want to do is pick the 2 plants that I'm going to put in this pot. I have Italian oregano, I have chives, I have basil, and I have, this is something I've never grown before, scarlet pineapple sage. And I'll be honest with you, it's the craziest smelling thing. It doesn't really smell like a pineapple to me, but it smells fruity. Anyways, what I try to do is plant 2 things that aren't really going to interfere with each other. In other words, one that kind of grows up and maybe one that stays clustered, or one that covers the ground. So in this pot, I'm going to put the chives on one side and the sage on the other. In the other pot, I'm going to put the basil, which would grow up tall, and the oregano, which tends to be more of a ground cover. And plus, basil and oregano go together. And I don't know about chives. I saw them, I never planted them. I thought, hey, what the heck? Let's plant chives. So before I fill in any more dirt, I'm going to go ahead and pull these out and kind of put them in place. Then I'll pack dirt around them. Oh, that's nowhere near root bound yet. So I'll nestle me out a spot here for the chives. And then I'll nestle me out a spot across from them for the pineapple sage. And there is some if you've got roots just all the way around like these, I tend to want to kind of tease them out. Even if I break a few, that's okay with me. The main thing, I want them about the same height. I usually add this water before I add those plants. Alright, that's about a gallon of water. Now, the reason you add water now and don't just wait till the end is because this potting mix is really, really dry. And it takes hours to soak through it. I just put about a gallon of water in a 5-gallon pot. So, it will go down through there. Now I'm going to add more on the top. And I tell you what, I'm going to break these chives up now that I'm looking at them. I'm going to do one here and one here. That way maybe they'll spread a little better. But what we've done in the way that we've designed our pot is our plants are actually being planted right into some potting mix that has composted rabbit manure in it. And so those roots are immediately going into a well-fed soil, and there's a room for them to go. And then on the top we're just putting regular potting mix, which is just going to hold water. And then way down in the bottom, regular potting mix that the rest of this water is going to have to filter through to get out. So let's add more potting mix and fill in the gaps. So you don't want to come up on the, certain plants you can, but for the most part, you don't want to come up on the stems of your plants. So we are back down about where we need to be. I like about 1 inch or 2 of pot around the edge, and that allows me to put mulch in if they're drying too fast. If you mound the dirt up, a lot of times you get runoff. Your water doesn't really stay in. It hits the dirt and sheds. So if I want to mulch these a little bit, or I want to add some more compost to the top, if I think they need to be fed a little better, I have the ability to do that. If I fill my pot all the way to the top, I can't do that. So I've watered underneath. Now let me water the layer I just put on. Of course, plants need water to live, but what they also need is water to get the air out of the dirt and have the dirt, or you know, whatever, I'm calling it dirt, planting mix, that all needs to be making contact with the roots. And so it's important that you water, and water heavily when you plant a plant, so that the roots and the soil make contact together. I'm trying to press these down. This is a 2.5 gallon, I believe, pot. And I've put about, no, it's a 2-gallon pot. And I've put 1.5 gallons of water in this pot. And this is pretty wet, pretty moist. So, feel good about that. We'll water them again this evening. Let's do the same thing, but with basil and oregano. So there's what you end up with. The basil is here. What I'm planning for the basil to do is grow up and bush out. What I'm planning on the oregano to do is to grow around the edges and spill over. Oregano is more of a ground cover, basil is more of a bush. Here, the pineapple sage, I don't know much about it, but it looks to me to be growing in stalks. It's probably going to get tall. I'm expecting the chives to kind of fill in and sprout up around them. And we're just going to let them go, and they tend to seem to want to lay over. I don't know, I've never really grown them before. So this is kind of a new pot. This is stuff I've grown many times, and I know what will happen here. So that's how I do it. And remember, you want something on the bottom so water can get out and these don't flood and the roots don't rot out. Then you want your good dirt toward the top with new plants, maybe in the midsection. Then I just put regular vermiculite pot and soil around the top. We don't want to put all the good stuff at the bottom because then it runs right out the hole when it rains. We want it in that midsection where the plant's roots can access it quickly and they can get to growing just instantly. So all these plants are sitting in a rich layer of potting soil and rabbit pellets and compost. So I would expect them to maybe take a day or two to, I'd say a day really, to recover from the stress of being repotted. And I would think in the next week or so you'll see these things perking up and starting to take off. So I'm going to go set them over there with the rest of the plants in the soon-to-be flower bed, former goldfish pond. And thank you guys for watching. Give it a try. First thing, find a good pot on sale and buy it. You may have to wait till fall to do it, but buy some good pots on sale that'll be around a while. You can plant in these little temporary pots. It's just sometimes about midsummer they crack because they're designed for one season, and that was last season. And save these pots. These are great for starting plants in next year. There you have it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.